Well, good evening. Welcome to the regular scheduled Rossmoor Community Services District meeting for the month of March. Today is March 13, 2012. Mr. Union, you want to do the roll call?
Director Casey?
Here.
Director Maynard?
Here.
Director Rips?
Here.
President Coletta?
Here.
And Director Kahlert has an excused absence this evening.
Yes, he does. Would you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening we have no presentations, but we do have an addition to the agenda. Mr. Taboada handed each of us a moment ago proposed additions to the agenda. It's item dealing with rehabilitation of the Rossmoor Park indoor and outdoor men's and women's restrooms, and it will be proposed that we handle this in Section B of our format, but it does require agreement unanimously by the board, given a late notification of this additional agenda matter. I hope each of you has reviewed it, and if not, we'll take a moment, let you review it.
I'm reviewing it right now.
Okay, we'll take a moment, let you review it before we entertain a motion, up or down.
Okay. So by saying yes, we're saying we not approve this, but we at least hear about it.
Yeah, there's a question up here I'll restate it. Is that all right, Mr. Mayor? The question is, if we do move by unanimity to place this on the agenda, does that necessarily mean that we're voting to approve this? And the answer is no. Is that correct?
No, sir. I'm bringing it to you so that you do approve it.
I
Otherwise, I
understand you
wouldn't.
want to have it approved, but it would still come up for a vote by the board, correct?
That'll be a separate action, yes.
Correct. That's what I'm meaning to state. It's a
Yes.
separate action. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Mr. Casey, any questions?
No questions.
How about
Looks
you, Mr. Rips?
clear.
So do we need a motion to actually have this placed on?
First of all, we have to have a motion, and it has to be second, and we have to have a vote, and all four of us have to agree, first of which to get it on the agenda. That's the first step.
All right, I make a motion that we add this to our agenda this
I'll
evening.
second.
All right, any discussion before we take a vote?
I myself am not comfortable placing, if this does go for vote, of honestly being able to vote on something that was thrown to me so quickly. This is a big capital improvement project with contractor diagrams, and I would like to actually study it more myself. So that's where my head is right now.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All right, we're just asking if you want to get this on the agenda this evening, not if you approve of the expenditures that go with the agenda item. So I'm going to call for the question just to have this placed on the agenda. Does that necessarily mean that you're saying yes for any expenditures other than just to discuss
Just to
this?
discuss
Do we
it.
understand?
Yep, that was my intention for the motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
Okay, so it does require 4, is that correct, Mr. Taboada?
That's correct, sir.
All right, so then we can visit this later on in the evening, and this can be a board member item for next regular calendared RCSD meeting, or it can be at the request of the manager with more notice.
Right.
Okay. With that having been taken care of, now we go to public forum. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience who would like to address the board concerning matters which the RCSD has jurisdiction. We would listen, and we would seriously take note of what is said by the resident. And however, nonetheless, no matter how meritorious it may appear, we're not permitted to take any action, but we can at the end of the meeting make it a recommended item by a board member if they choose to have it agendized for a future meeting. So if you would like to address the board, please be so kind to state your first and last name. There's a sign-in sheet at the podium. Please just take a moment to print your first and last name. We appreciate it.
There's not a piece of paper here.
Okay, I'll hand you mine. Thanks.
Have our piece of paper.
We're up to a bad start. Thank you, sir.
I'll fill us out before I leave.
Okay.
Dave Burgess, Rossmoor resident. The subject is the rehab of the restrooms inside this auditorium and also the public facilities outside. And I did a walkthrough with Rick Conlon on Tuesday and kind of got the scope of work, got a set of plans, looked at them, came back a couple days later. I don't know if there's enough due diligence and actually more than a couple people looking at what is trying to be accomplished. I don't want to beat anybody up. Firstly, on a positive note, I had someone actually go in and use the facilities. It's very loud inside the office. Henry's office, all the way around. That needs to be addressed, no doubt. The method and the cost, I did not bid on the project. It was due at 4 o'clock. I found out on Monday evening, kind of short notice, and actually my electrician was in Mexico, and my plumber was out of town. And in general, I don't think there's enough due diligence and research being done on the individual line items and the capital expenditures. I'm not beating anybody up, it's just a fact. In no particular order, you know, I walk into these restrooms here and Rick says, well, we want to replace them with waterless urinals. Number one, it's a big cost. Just if you do it, you pull out the urinals, buy new urinals. They come with cartridges that I won't go into the technical side of it, but it's expensive. And he says, yeah, well, based upon statistics, the average urinal uses 45,000 gallons a year. So if you multiply it by 2, I've done the math, don't think anybody else did. That would mean each of those urinals would have to be flushed 473 times a day, 365 days a year. The math is simple. It's not happening. Secondly, again, I'm a general contractor. I won't go into details. I spent an hour with one of the vendors on the plans that's back east. I also walked Michael through, you know, at 6:45 today. Waterless urinals aren't the way to go. You don't want to spend X thousand dollars moving a perfectly functional blow dryer from the door entrance, a hand dryer, 7 linear feet away, public entity, code, pull new wire behind tile, all the way back to the panel, in conduit. I mean, you can spend $2,000 on something that works. Replacing partitions. The women's, it's nothing wrong with it. The men's has been painted once, fine. If you want to replace it, make it look pretty, I'm okay with that. You don't rip out perfectly good countertops and put freestanding sinks attached to a wall in a public facility. And if you do, you better spend a couple grand per unit to make it strong enough when some kid comes in there and jumps up and down, it rips it off the wall. You don't replace mirrors with stainless steel mirrors under the assumption that they can't scratch stainless steel. I showed Michael, you can scratch anything if you want to. As an alternative, from a privacy standpoint, it's illegal and bad form to put a camera in there, inside the restroom. I get it. Put one outside. It doesn't even have to be real. Put a sign on there, 24-hour surveillance. You go home at 5 o'clock or the park's, next morning there's vandalism. You have a tape if you have a real camera. So you know in that window, not that you're going to do a bunch of investigation and try to prosecute somebody, but just the threat of someone seeing that person at that facility.
Are you in a position to take some time to outline some of what you've just said? You've said so much, and in as much as this is going to be transcribed, but it's not going to be transcribed literally for us.
Yeah, probably going into too much detail. Again,
No, it's good, but not to sell you short, but you sound like you know what you're talking about. You're in the industry, I'm not.
Yeah.
So if you would outline it, I'm sure that people on the capital improvement project in this Taboada will revisit it. I certainly am persuaded that, to the minimum, that the waterless urinals is something we had to revisit. That's just one of the big
Right.
highlights. I underscore what you say. So we're not going to vote on this tonight. We're not even going to discuss it tonight.
Right.
But we heed you. I heed your admonition, and we think we need to look at it.
I mean, I've lived here for 53 years. My sister lives here in a separate residence. I live on another street. My mom's original owner.
Sure.
Money's not falling out of the trees.
Absolutely.
If you're going to spend, I'm not going to get up on my high horse soapbox. If you're going to spend $20,000 in a restroom that needs 10, I'd rather have $10,000 go to a festival or something. The people, something for the good of the community. I don't think the thought process is thorough. And one detail that I will interject, and then I'll move on. I appreciate everybody's time is valuable. One of the items that was on the scope was to put a GFI outlet in each restroom. Number one, you don't want to have electrical in a public facility. Someone's going to damage it. You don't need it. If you really need to go in there and work, run an extension cord. Secondly, which is embarrassing to whoever's providing the scope of work, there's already a GFI outlet in each restroom underneath the counter. So no one's bending down and looking and saying, oh, there's an outlet there.
I appreciate what you have had to say tonight. I think all of us do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Erwin Annisman, Rossmoor resident. I want to talk about my concern of the district spending what must be thousands of dollars on attorney and accounting fees to pursue the financial data from the county to show that we're a donor rather than a donee community. It seems like it's come down to a spitting contest between the board and Mr. Murlock, which doesn't look very dignified and I don't think reflects very well on the board. The bottom line is that it really doesn't matter whether we're a donor or a donee district, because the county has a policy to divest themselves of unincorporated areas. They want to rid themselves of it. And whether we're, they're going to go after that policy whether we're a donor or a donee community. So I don't see this futile pursuit that the district has gone on. So I would ask the board to reconsider this pursuit and not waste the taxpayers' money on it. Thank you.
All right, seeing no one else coming forward, I'll take it. There is someone? Thank you. Come forward.
I'm Nanette Dolanwan. I'm a resident of Rossmoor, and I have to disagree with the gentleman that came before me. Mr. Morlock and the county are elected by all of us in the county. I disagree with their attitude that they don't have to perform to our requests. We are taxpayers, and go get them. Thank you.
All right. Again, it doesn't appear anyone stepping up forward for public forum, so at this time, given the number of people in the audience, we'll close it and move on to reports to the board. Mr. Taboada, D1, please.
Mr. President, members of the board, much has happened since your last meeting in February. At the conclusion of your February 14th meeting, the board, each board member signed a letter in response to Supervisor Morlock's letter of December 22nd, 2011, which basically said he was not going to provide any additional data. That letter that went to him from the board basically said, you really are obligated to provide financial data when it's requested, and we request that you submit it. To date, no reply has been received. Also, the Public Records Act request has been prepared by Mr. Fred Brousseau of the Harvey Rose firm, making specific requests for financial data. And that request letter is attached to your agenda for information purposes. Further, Special Counsel Janet Morningstar has been communicating with the State Attorney General's office regarding the AG opinion requested by the district through Assemblymember Silva's office. The opinion requested an interpretation of the government code relating to the ability of the Orange County Sheriff to withdraw the current core service levels and instead contract with the district for services as negotiated with the county and the sheriff. County Council has once again opined to the AG that the sheriff cannot withdraw the current service levels being provided and may only contract for supplemental service with LAFCO approval to be paid for by the district. Such an impediment would stand in the way of a service level agreement similar to that enjoyed by contract cities in the county. Attached are those communications from the Attorney General's office and County Council. The response provided by Special Counsel Janet Morningstar to the Deputy AG is based on questions and responses posed by the county and subsequent clarifications requested by the AG. From the specificity of the questions posed by Deputy Attorney General Nolan, it would appear that an opinion may be close at hand. And that should that opinion be favorable to the district, then obviously we would proceed to the next level of due diligence to determine whether or not it is feasible to contract with the county and with the sheriff for provision of latent powers upon approval by LAFCO. Mr. President, that's my update for you, and I do expect that not too distant future, we will get that AG opinion, and that will give guidance to this board as to what your next steps are.
Any comments or questions?
No.
Not at this time.
Mr. Casey?
Well, yeah, I have like one question. I think it's pretty clear because there was a lot of detail in the report talking about services that are provided by the sheriff. They can be supplemented, like cities that are served also by the sheriff in some manner would supplement it with their own police department. And I guess my question is that for a community like Rossmoor, the same situation would apply, that if we had services from the sheriff, that we in some manner could supplement those services, though not really replacing it. I guess that's what I can glean from this. Is that a true statement?
If I understand your statement correctly, the district has the ability, according to County Council, to contract with the sheriff's department for additional services, which the district would have to pay for. The last estimate that we got from the sheriff back in '08 for that additional services was about $1 million, which would have to be paid for by the district. And of course, the district doesn't have that kind of funds to
Absolutely.
pay for that. So the goal here was to be able to contract with the sheriff for core services, those services that they currently provide to contract cities, like Villa Park and Laguna Woods, et cetera. And those services would simply be paid for by an exchange of funds between the county to Rossmoor, Rossmoor back to the sheriff. County council has said, can't be done. The sheriff cannot withdraw those core services. Our general counsel disagrees. And that's why we asked for the AG opinion to see if, in fact, the county council was wrong, and that we could, if we got agreement from the county, from the sheriff, and LAFCO to do this. As you know, back in '06, we almost got there with then Sheriff Corona, and due to some unavoidable and unexplainable reasons, it never materialized due to disagreements at the county level. But certainly the model is there, is that for a contract city agreement, if we get a favorable AG opinion, and if we can prevail with the county to see the wisdom of relieving themselves of providing municipal services to an unincorporated area.
Okay, yeah, you answered the question that I was posing. Thank you.
All right, there's nothing that is required of us as far as any direction per se that you're seeking tonight?
Well, actually, we're waiting on two things. We're waiting for the AG opinion, and we're waiting for a response to the Public Records Act request. I'm assuming that the county will their first response will be, we need more time, which the law provides for. After that, then, we have to determine, the board has to determine, through the services of Mr. Brousseau, whether or not the county has been responsive or not. And at that point, then, the board needs to determine whether they want to go one step further, and that is challenge the county if, in fact, they are not providing that data that's been requested.
Okay, thank you. You've answered my question. All right, any other comments? No? All right, seeing none, then we'll move on. If you could address then D2. Thank you for the report.
President, members of the board, D2 is a report from the Public Works CIP Committee, where they reviewed the project list for the current year and the budgets that support those projects in this current year. Attached to your agenda item is that committee report in items C1 and C2 with the following recommendations from the committee. The first one was to approve in concept a project for installation of monument signage at Rossmoor Shopping Village. I can report to you that I have been in contact with the county, have provided them with the information that we have in terms of locations, projected size and style of the monuments, and have basically had it reviewed by the county planning department, zoning, and it's now in the hands of traffic. I spoke with our project person today regarding progress on that, and he assured me that it was moving up through their management system for further review. Apparently, this is something a little, it's not a typical type of request, and so they're examining it. But I did ask if it looked like we would get a favorable response, and I was told that no one had seen anything that would prevent us from moving ahead with this project. So what I'm asking for really, and what the committee is asking for, is approval in concept of moving ahead with that project and reporting back to you as soon as we have information on cost, approval from the property owners for the installation of the signs, the scope of and size of the signs, and everything that goes with it. So that would be one motion after the end of my report. The second recommendation was to authorize the general manager to adjust the project list of the 2011-2012 CIP to include a project for installation of signage of those 3 locations. And the third one was to direct the general manager to perform due diligence for determining the right requirements, approvals, and actual costs of installations, and inform the board of findings for possible approval of the project. So technically, I think you can probably roll that all up into one motion, since we've already done some of the basic work on this, and simply direct me to proceed with coming back to you with a more fleshed out proposal.
All right, does anyone want to frame a motion regarding D2, whether you accept Mr. Taboada's recommendation of taking all 3 sub-issues into one big motion, or however a board member would choose to?
Actually, Mr. President, the third one is really, I think, all-encompassing.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure how to word this, but
Just take
I would like to make a motion that you, I'm sorry?
just do number 3. I think that
Okay. And I'd like to make a motion that we direct the general manager to perform the due diligence for determining the requirements, approval, and actual costs of the installations of this project, and then inform the board of findings for possible approval of the project.
I will second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Mr. Chasey, would you like to ask any questions?
Well, part of that process will be determining, like you talked about, costs for permits and other things beside the actual signs themselves and the installation.
that's correct.
What you would do is get the rest of the details, so we would know a firm number
Right, correct, sir.
for each of these items.
But I think if we don't get planning department approval, there's no sense in spending time and resources on some of these other issues. But-
Understood.
And I expect that I'll have that not too distant future.
Okay, that's the only question I have.
And then your second bullet, even though it's not been framed in the motion, it's been first and second, is to adjust the CIP project schedule for 2011, 2012. Is this something, I take it, that could be adjusted into the project schedule, assuming all things working out favorably?
We have there's a balance in the budget for the funds of over $50,000, and we think the scope of this project will actually be less than that amount. So we think when it comes back that we will be able to adjust and just add it into what we're doing. If it comes back to more, then we'll have to look at some of the projects and maybe make a determination to put something off, but we think it's going to be within that scope.
Okay.
Strangely enough, the project on the wall at Wallingsford posed the least amount of issue for the county. The other 2 have to do with line of sight and traffic visibility and those kinds of things. So I expect that they will modify perhaps our design, and hopefully approve the concept.
Well, I can see 2 of 3 might be of issue for line of sight, not all 3.
No, just 2. Yeah.
2, 2 of 3. All right, Mr. Maynard, anything?
No.
All right. You satisfied with the call for the question, Mr. Casey?
Yeah, call for the question.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We now move to consent calendar. The consent calendar has 2 items. Either matter can be pulled from the consent calendar at the request of a director, or we can approve both items if there is no request to discuss either one, either the minutes or the revenue and expenditure report.
Mr. President, I'd like to lay over the regular minutes of February 14th, 2012. General Counsel has reviewed those minutes and has asked a question regarding whether or not a proper motion was made with respect to one of the appeal hearings that we had with regard to tree issues. And he's asked to review that particular item and for us to construct a change to the minutes or ask the board to reaffirm that what we think you did.
Well, I'm clueless as to which of the appeals. as I'm
It
sure
had to
all
do with Mrs. Simpson.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There was a lot of dialogue,
Right.
but there was no formal motion, at least that Ms. Deering could determine from the tape. And so the General Counsel looked at it and said, I don't see a motion here to deal with disposal of this item.
Give me a thumbnail sketch of Ms. Simpson's appeal. Which one of the 6 or so that was
Laura's, she was the one that the
Mr.
Laura.
and Mrs. Laura's
She
presentation?
needed help
Right.
with watering.
She wanted to make sure that it would be watered, and if the tree happened to die, that we would replace the tree
Right.
at not her cost.
I remember the discussion.
Yeah.
I guess if I fell short, or if any of us fell short, we apologize for not articulating explicitly in the motion
It was
all the
implied.
details. Have you, Mr. Taboada, written down what was omitted, or have a proposed motion that we might hear that includes all those items that would satisfy council, that it was explicit enough to take care of Ms. Simpson?
I think, though, that there was not a vote taken on that, is what I think he's saying, because we could not record a vote.
Really?
So do we need
That's
to
surprising.
amend those, or do we need to vote on it tonight for
We can
for this?
All you'll do is lay it over for next week, next month.
Okay.
We'll bring you back a revised minutes and/or a motion on that particular matter so that we can cure what's missing, one of the two.
I would suggest that council, since he is concerned, and as I hope he is concerned for the district and Ms. Simpson, that he'll properly and objectively frame it,
Okay.
present it to us. It'll be a reflection of the actual meeting, because I'll take it that he'll have watched it, at
That's
least
the-
that portion.
He's going to review the tape,
Okay.
yes.
Would you feel comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, I would do that. I would suggest that's our direction tonight.
Yes, correct.
Sure.
Do you need a motion? Do you accept our nodding and our vocalizing, yes, it's acceptable?
Do we have to officially pull that from the consent calendar then?
Yes, just all your, why don't you just make a motion to table this till next meeting?
I make such motion.
I second such motion.
Any opposition? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposition? No, okay. So now we've dealt with the minutes. How about the revenue and expenditure report? It's still on the consent calendar. That's the only one, it seems, by the fact the manager had pulled that one item. The other items, I don't know if anyone wants to discuss the revenue and expenditure report.
I have no questions.
All in favor of that matter, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, revenue and expenditure report is approved. Now we go to the one resolution, which is G1.
Mr. President, members of the board, you have before you resolution number 12-03-13-01, a resolution of the Rossmoor Community Services District amending and adopting local guidelines for implementing the California Environmental Quality Act. And this is a major revision. Typically, what we get are minor revisions to this. The last time we did this, I think, was in '08 or '09. And so the General Counsel has provided you with a rather lengthy and voluminous document of that amended CEQA Act, and a memorandum that is included, which basically summarizes the changes to local CEQA guidelines. And there really is no action other than to adopt the resolution. And we are providing you with a binder so that you can take this out of the agenda package and place it into that binder so that you can keep that much like you do your policy document. And should there ever be a question with CEQA, you have a document to work from. So the motion would be to adopt resolution and
So this is basically, we are currently non-compliant. By voting on this, we become compliant.
no, sir, it's just, when the act changes and it's amended, then each agency is given time to adopt this and to basically get into conformance. Yeah.
Okay.
But you're not technically out of compliance.
Okay, but it's for further compliance upcoming in the future. Okay.
And this, we need a roll call vote?
Yes, I would like a roll call on this.
Director Casey?
Aye.
Director Maynard?
Aye.
Director Rips?
Aye.
President Collette?
Aye. May I sign the resolution at this time?
Sure.
What was the question?
You wanted to know if you should sign the resolution?
I don't have, does he have it? Okay.
Pretty thorough.
Okay, that's taken care of. Now we go to regular calendar items, H1.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is the second reading of revised policy number 3050, purchasing. At first reading, I reported to you that I had proposed revisions to bring this policy into conformance with your policy direction to limit the general manager's expenditure limits to $5,000. By amending this particular document, all of your policies with regard to expenditures are now consistent at $5,000.
I'm good. I make a motion that we accept the second reading of this revision of policy number 3050.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we go to H2.
Mr. President, members of the board, I previously reported to you that due to the expiration of an agreement between Time Warner and the County of Orange, a franchise agreement, that Time Warner would no longer be providing production services of our meetings to broadcast over either LATV3 or the internet. Before I go any further, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Time Warner for the service for the years that I've been here, which next month will be 6 years, and the cooperation and the professional manner in which they have performed this service. And I'm sorry to see that they will no longer be here to do this for us, but things change and we move on. So hopefully the board agrees with my thankfulness for that service.
Indeed.
I think we all are. I can say that I'm appreciative, and I know that we all enjoy watching it the next night for those that are curious to see what's going on. So nonetheless, we're grateful. But with regard to tonight's...
Let me go on with that, sir. I'm asking you to approve an agreement for future production of district board meetings and authorize the general manager to further investigate the 1% fee option for the purchase of district-owned production equipment. At the last meeting, I provided you with a list of options that had been provided to us by Orange County people that administer the franchise with Time Warner. Most of those recommendations did not materialize. And so what I'm proposing to you now is that we've obtained 2 bids, one from Mr. John Underwood and one from Mr. David Wood.
Mr. Wood?
And what the board has is a choice to make between the 2 types of services that each of these individuals can provide. I'll go through with the list of factors in this decision. Both individuals have comparable experience in the production of live and taped events with quality results. With regard to logistics, the Wood proposal involves a 2-party arrangement between the contractor and Long Beach City Council. And General Counsel has provided a draft agreement that separates the district from that arrangement, making Mr. Wood responsible for all aspects of the 2-party proposal. This proposal involves the transportation of equipment from Long Beach City College to the auditorium in a rental truck and the storing of equipment until the following morning in the auditorium. Mr. Underwood's proposal only involves a 1-party contractor who owns his own equipment and transportation, and none of the logistical issues I've mentioned apply. With regard to broadcasting, an advantage of the Wood proposal is that the district would receive a DVD immediately after the meeting for broadcasting, almost immediately, for placement onto YouTube or onto LATV3's schedule within a day or 2. if an arrangement can be reached with Los Alamitos. The Underwood proposal, however, requires post-production work of 3 to 5 days, which would delay broadcasting by about a week. Now, with regard to production, both contractors need to hire or contract for personnel to operate cameras and assist with setup and takedown. But that would not be an issue for the district. The difference between a 2-camera and a 3-camera shoot is a subjective difference which would not disqualify Mr. Underwood's proposal. With regard to cost, Mr. Wood's proposal is broken down by expense categories, which helps evaluate the market value of the cost. The total annual cost of the district would amount to $13,680. Mr. Underwood's proposal is all-inclusive at $750 per month, or an annual cost to the district of $9,000. We also looked at reliability. Both individuals have a long-standing relationship with the City of Los Alamitos and/or LATV3 and years of experiences in this field. There's no reason to believe that either would not fulfill their commitment to this service. Now, regarding the recommendation, since both proposals have merit, it may be difficult to ignore the cost savings to the district to reach an agreement with Mr. John Underwood. The added cost of Mr. Wood's proposal, however, is deemed to have sufficient value added to sway a decision on several levels. Our staff reasoning is as follows. Immediacy. The Wood proposal provides for almost immediate broadcasting to the public. The further a broadcast is delayed, there is a correspondingly lower interest level from the public to view it. 2 versus 3-camera production. 2-camera angles are requisite to cover the district board meetings, 1 to cover the public speaking at the lectern, district staff, and the video screen, and the 2nd to cover the dais from the back of the room. A 3rd camera at the back of the room provides a master shot of the dais, given a close-up camera operator time to determine who is speaking and get it into position, get the camera into position. A single camera covering this angle would have to make quick movements online and would probably get the shot late. With regard to specific expertise, both individuals have a broad breadth of experience. However, Mr. Underwood has been producing Los Alamitos City Council meetings for several years. Should this arrangement not meet with the board's expectations, there's a fallback position with Mr. Underwood or the equipment purchase option at a later date. Moving on to broadcasting, the district can continue to broadcast its meetings as it does now by reaching an agreement with Los Alamitos to air the meetings on LATV3, which would likely result in a cost to the district. Could continue to utilize a web-based transmission as we do now with Mr. Strother by utilizing a cloud-based URL on a contract basis. The advantage of the current arrangement with Mr. Strother is that it is no cost, but there's no agreement in place for a long-term commitment. A cloud-based URL contract would ensure a long-term commitment at a reasonable cost. An agreement with a company such as Vimeo.com charges $139 annually for 50 gig of storage and 250,000 plays, more than the district would ever need. Regarding the purchase of equipment, using the 1% option has merit and should not be discounted. The district could purchase robotic camera, mixer, and other equipment which could be used to be operated by one individual. Production contractor time would amount to approximately 3 to 5 hours per month for board meetings at a negotiated price. This option also has the advantage of taping other meetings which now require the consent of Time Warner. The estimated cost for state-of-the-art equipment is approximately $75,000, which would be recoverable from the 1% fee. Equipment would not need to be purchased until its full cost became available from that fee. The longer-term adoption would guarantee a consistent and reliable operation under the control of the district. Also, depending on the equipment purchase, there would be greater flexibility for this production and programming other than regular board meetings. This could include special board meetings, workshops, and ad hoc committee meetings, and perhaps remote events. There are sufficient funds in the budget identified to pay for this year's service. Normally, I would bring to you a recommendation of one or the other of these two individuals. What the board has to decide is whether or not cost is a factor versus a 2 or 3 camera operation, whether or not the immediacy of being able to put the DVD onto the internet almost immediately, or at a later 3 to 5 days later. So these are the the variables that make this a very difficult choice. And as I said, I would normally come to you and make a decision on this, but again, recognizing that the board considers cost at everything that they do, there's also the corresponding other side of this, which is the quality and the ability to get this thing on the air as quickly as possible. So I leave it to you for discussion and direction.
Are both vendor candidates here?
Yes, they are.
Do I have questions?
Oh, sorry. I have a couple of questions. First, for my edification, since I guess I forgot, what would the 1% fee would be against what? That would be added to your cable bill, or?
That's correct, sir. Every cable subscriber would, after an ordinance by the County Board of Supervisors, they would charge an additional 1% to the 5% that's already on your cable bill if you have cable service. And that money would accumulate until we reach the $75,000 threshold, which would then allow the district to purchase the equipment that's in the bid list that's provided in your agenda package.
Good.
At the time that you reach that threshold and paid for that equipment, that surcharge would drop off. But it would require approval of the county, and the money can only be used for the purchase of equipment.
Okay, thank you. Second question is, if in deciding between the two providers, is it possible that we could establish a relationship for a shorter period of time than, well, I'm not sure what you had in mind, a year? Could we do like 3 or 4 months, or would that not be possible? Or do you know?
Normally, an agreement is for a minimum of a year with extensions up to 3 years of extension based on the comfort zone of the board. In this particular case, because you're buying a service for which you have no experience with,
Right.
why, that it would be, I think, very acceptable to have a trial basis with one or the other to determine their ability to deliver and for you to determine its quality and consistent with its cost.
I like that.
Under one of the proposals by Mr. Wood, you would have to store the equipment in our facilities. Does that create a liability for the district?
Well, not for the district, but it does create a situation where the contractor would be placing his equipment in our facility.
Yeah.
And it would be a risk factor that,
Yeah.
I was just, to me, that seems like a potential liability if there is a theft.
that's probably correct, yes.
Okay. Mr. Underwood, are you here?
He was. I don't see him now.
He was here.
There goes that question.
Did you speak to Underwood about a 3-camera, why he couldn't do 3?
Well, he only has equipment for 2. And there was a forum that was conducted here in this auditorium, right, with no walls, just open auditorium. And Mr. Underwood did a 2-camera video of this forum that gave me the impression that while it's not the same as what we now receive from Time Warner, it was a very adequate coverage of that forum. So 2 cameras can do it, 3 are better. It's just a question of how much, the cost difference versus the quality of the broadcast. When you're watching it on on the internet, I doubt that you're going to see much of a difference in the quality factor. I mean,
You portrayed it correctly. The real issue here is speed. And that's why I wish Mr. Underwood was here and see if he can improve upon his 3 to 5 days delivery of a disc for us to upload onto our website as well as YouTube.
the reason that he has to do that is because he's recording the meeting. Then he takes the disc and goes back and does post-production. That's where he inserts names and agenda items, all of the things that currently are done here with the truck, with Time Warner. I believe Mr. Woods would have a camera-ready DVD almost immediately. You might just ask him how.
Is Mr. Woods here? Okay.
I'm sorry, I said it was Dave, it's Douglas Wood.
Douglas Wood, yeah. And I cover the Los Alamitos, City Council meetings, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and then the setup that I would rent from City College is very similar to the system they have here, but there's no truck, so I would transport it over here and set it up over on the side there, and then do a very similar production, 3 cameras and, a DVD that'd be ready at the time.
How is it you're able to do it quicker? I don't know much about other than still photography. I have no understanding of production, and I don't have any of your expertise. So how do you do it so quick, and why is Mr. Underwood taking 3 to 5 days?
Oh, well, the difference is that everything's done basically live to the recording, live to tape, whereas he's recording separate cameras, and then
Has to mix?
has to mix it together and add the names, whereas everything would be done live, similar to the way it's being done right now.
So yours is done in real time, his is done
Yes,
after
sir.
the fact?
Yeah.
So you would be adding the names and things that we get currently?
Yes, yes. So there'd be
So you have a
no,
live switcher in the truck, you're doing all that with the key and all that work. Do you then do some fine editing after the fact? Because I'm sure I've seen sports where not every camera is right and not everything. Do you do a little minor editing before you turn it in?
no,
Okay.
it would be, not usually anyway. Typically, it's warts and all.
Okay.
So, yeah, if there was a mistake, like occasionally there is a mistake that's made, like maybe the wrong name that's put up, and then take that down really quick and put up the right one, if there is a mistake. Typically, it's not edited.
A couple more questions, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Taboada said that the CD would be available to the district, meaning the staff here, within 1 to 2 days. Is that correct?
Yes, so it would actually, at the end of the meeting, it would, just as the same as it's done now, it would be, the disc would be prepared and then
What-
handed over.
My question challenge is why 1 to 2 days? Why would it not be 1 day versus 2 days? And then I have a follow-up
Let
question.
me try and answer that, Mr. President, because he'll provide us, staff, with a disk. We then have to take that disk and duplicate it so that we can send it to various outlets. And so there is time lost there in that duplication
Okay,
process.
it's not his work, it's...
the other.
It's our work, yes.
Okay. I just
But
wanna
you,
get
when
it
you
clear.
leave here,
So
would
it's
be giving
fairness
us
to
a
you.
DVD, correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
I would leave the DVD here.
Well, at the end of the night, you'd finish, here's your DVD.
Right, right.
Then it's
Just
us, and how quickly we can turn things around.
And if I understand correctly, whether it's Mr. Underwood or Mr. Wood that delivers a product to the district, it's up to the district to then publish.
Broadcast it.
Broadcast.
So basically, guys, it's a $390 per month, based on our average. If we have 12 meetings, there's a $390 premium for them to have the disc at the end of the show. So we can post that to our community so they can see it while it's as timely as possible.
Yeah, that's how it looks.
In here listed in annual costs, what happens if we're dark 1 month? Is that annual cost the same, or is that really 12 monthly costs?
Oh, it's just on a per, I mean, the breakout of the cost was just on a per meeting basis, and if you were dark, then there would be no, there would be no charge, because there would be no usage of any equipment or time or anything.
The difference on an annual basis is the difference between $13,680 and $9,000.
Right.
Okay. Why don't we open up to, there's a few people here in the audience tonight. I'd like to hear if there's a preference or no preference.
There's a hand up.
Oops, sorry. First of all, I'm totally inexperienced in this arena completely, but can't we look at both of them and then make a decision also? I mean, this gentleman here is doing it for Los Alamitos, right? Have we, or do we plan to take a look at his production?
You know,
Our general manager has.
Okay.
Mr. Casey raised the same question at the outset, and I think it's a valid question. I just wanted to hear if there was a preference, and you're echoing what I've heard. But
Yeah,
is
and
there a
also, I mean,
preference?
it's $400 a month difference. Are we getting $400 a month more in value? I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't have an opinion, it's $400.
It's the price of speed. This is the way I look at it. Do you want it to be instant and timely, or do you want to save $400 and it's available for viewing a week later?
I would vote for a week later, and if they're apples to
That's because you
apples.
come here every week. You already know what's going on.
Right. But I did also watch the last one where the guy talked about the trees and the leashes for 65 minutes.
I'm curious, Mr. Don Brunon,
Thank you.
Thank you.
you have some experience in this area, a little bit more than me, maybe a lot more. I'm just kind of curious what your take is.
First of all, Don Brune, that's my
Don.
name. The difference is Mr. Underwood's style is more like electronic news gathering. You shoot with isolated cameras and spend some considerable time afterwards in editing or post-production, putting something together. What Mr. Wood is proposing is what we call a live shoot. It's, in this case, a 3-camera shoot, just like Time Warner's doing. And the efficacy, to me, is obvious. I think it's worth the difference to do a 3-camera shoot. I think the immediacy is important. I take this disc home and spend probably 4 hours with it, getting it so we can put it on the internet, and then making copies so it goes to LATV tomorrow. I really don't need to do that 4 hours until midnight or 1 o'clock, but I do it because I feel it's important that we adhere to the open meeting spirit and communicate with our constituency.
So you really hate it when we have our meetings run long?
So, you know, to the extent that's important, I think we should seriously consider the live shoot. Character generator, it's all built in, just like now, so we walk away with a finished disc. Are there other questions? There was something that slipped my mind, but maybe
I
you
just
could
wanted
prompt
to
me.
hear your preference, given that you're in the industry somewhat. So I just wanted to hear your preference.
Okay. Anyway, so that's my answer to that. Thank you.
Mr. President, I think what it boils down to is either choice you make, I think, is going to be a good one. It's just a question of preference over style versus dollars. I mean, it's,
Well, I think Mr. Casey raises a good question. The question is,
Duration.
Can we sample the buffet before we go in with both feet? Can we try one for a season and then see what the complaints or the positive attributes that we get as far as calls, emails, or visitations here versus another trial period? I throw that out there. I kind of personally would like to see what the public wants. We don't know. They're just looking to say, oh, you guys make a decision, and then they'll say, well, you could have saved a few bucks. Why don't you just try it first? What have you got to lose? And I kind of like that. Spending less and see how it works. I know Mr. Underwood produces a good product. It's just at the delay. I don't know that it can be improved. Maybe it could. But then maybe people would say, you know, so what? It's delayed a week. We're willing to save $4,000, $5,000 a year. So that's. I'm just throwing that out there because I don't know that there's right or wrong. I'm just looking to see if there's any other view here other than we just jump in both feet with Mr. Woods.
let me respond to your issue. As I indicated earlier, you can ask for a short-term agreement to determine whether or not someone is capable of performing at your expected level. You have to take into account that there's going to be a startup cost to either one of these individuals to gear up and get ready to do this. So whether or not either one of them would be willing to take on this on a short-term basis without at least some idea that they can amortize their startup time over a 12-month period or whatever, that would need to be negotiated. And the problem you have is you don't have anybody after this meeting unless you agree.
Imagine
on-
that.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I know.
Why is there a startup cost? If this is they have their cameras, they make their cameras, they have the DVD at the end, what's the startup cost?
Well, I can, you know, I've seen Underwood's gear. I mean, he's got a truck, he's got cameras, he loads them up. He's got a, if not contract, at least get camera operators, get people lined up to do this. I mean, it's.
Well, but we're paying for that on a per usage basis,
Yes,
right?
you are, but I'm saying, let's look at Mr. Wood's proposal. He has an arrangement with Long Beach City College, and that arrangement has to be worked out. There has to be people that are available, ready to go, and reliable, and all of that. Whether or not these people are willing to sign on for the same amount of time as you're asking for this agreement remains to be seen. It's up to you, but I'm telling you, what you don't want to come up with is come to one meeting and somebody says, gee, my truck broke down, or, something happened that,
Well, that could happen with either vendor, a truck breaking down.
Oh, of course. But all I'm saying to you is that,
Contract. I don't like the fact that the concept of taking a step backwards. Right now, people can watch this tomorrow. And I don't have a number, I don't know how many people actually participate in doing that, but our community, we have a standard of what they've been able to accept, and they have the opportunity to view us. And if we go to something that takes 3 to 5 days to get back, and all of a sudden we're saying, well, you can watch us, but it's a week later, it's like, I feel like I think we're taking a step backwards as a community, and
Makes sense.
It's not comfortable for me.
I'm also disappointed that Mr. Wood had to leave.
Underwood.
Underwood, sorry.
Yes, sir. The other Wood.
Wood and Underwood. Mr. Underwood left in a sense, this is almost a job interview, and he's not here to answer questions, because my only thing is it says 3 to 5 days. If he would say 2 to 3 days, that's a different story, because 5 days is completely unacceptable to put our likelihood, in front of the people who can't make this meeting.
Let me ask Mr. Taboada, let's assume we go with either vendor. The publishing of the CD by your staff reasonably will add what amount of hours or days to the delay for a broadcast? What do you really, where is the tire going to hit the road on this? You tomorrow, if you got a CD from tomorrow morning from Mr. Wood, how quick would the staff be able to publish it? What do you foresee is the reasonable expectation on the part of the resident?
Mr. Wood's proposal is identical to what you have now.
Right.
At the end of the meeting tonight, he would give us a DVD. We turn it over to Mr. Broom. He takes it home, does what he does, comes back the next morning. He's got a DVD and maybe copies of DVDs. Then they get distributed. That doesn't change. That remains almost.
So to be direct, does that mean that following Wednesday evening, someone can turn on their TV and see the broadcast just 24 hours later, as we do now?
More than likely, less than 24 hours.
Or in this case, wherever it's available.
Right. Yeah, it may not be on
It might be
LATV.
YouTube, it might be our website, but some availability, some form of access.
My question is, though, the TV, because a lot of people are still stuck on the TV. I think a majority of people are.
That's a separate subject. That's transmission, which is
Right.
a different point that has nothing to do with the production aspect.
But it still involves the district.
But we don't have an agreement with LATV3.
Yes.
What do you think they're going to tell you when you try to negotiate with them?
Well, when I asked the city manager if they would consider, since we're bearing this new cost for production, if they would continue to put it on LATV3 as they do now. But just like we're losing Time Warner on the production side, they are losing like $15,000 a year in broadcast fees paid to them by Time Warner. So the city manager basically said, this is not a decision for me to make. You need to make a proposal to the Cable Commission to see what it is that they would want, what they would consider to put this on the air. They're not obligated to put it on the air. And when someone says to me, submit a proposal without a number, or at least any idea of what it is that they're looking for, it's like, not something that I, want to go into. It's like going in with a blindfold. I could propose $1, I could propose $15,000. What they would accept, however, is an unknown. And you would also be saying to Los Alamitos, you'd be asking for a favor almost.
Yeah.
I recognize, here's my thing I haven't worked out yet. If I go with the delayed broadcast of 3 to 5 days, there's no guarantee we're going to be able to structure something to our liking and to the expediency of being able to broadcast, telecast this CD with the entity you have yet to negotiate with. And we could all agree to go with Mr. Wood tonight and still be struggling with this over the course of days or weeks. So I'm just wondering, why do I want to, for the sake of, I hear what you're saying. I don't want to go back in time as far as technology and speed, but there's no assurance that which we may buy tonight, a contract with Mr. Wood even for a year. The first couple of months, that's going to be accomplished.
I have a different take.
Okay, I'd like to hear it.
More people own computers than are on cable TV. We probably have a lot of people who are on direct TV. Current stat that is true is the most used search engine is YouTube. The fact that we put it out in some format is what's crucial. The fact that Los Alamitos might or might not put it on, we don't even know when they're going to put it on. If he goes in and says, okay, we'll give you $1 in good spirit as a neighbor, they're going to say, great, enjoy your 2:30 a.m. time slot.
Right.
So I'm willing to bet anyone a gentleman's bet that we have more people who have DSL or high-speed internet who can watch things on our website or can go to YouTube than would actually have cable. That's my take on it.
And just to kind of continue with that, I do think there's a quality difference between a 3-camera shoot and a 2-camera shoot. And I think if we are going to YouTube or via viral somehow, and we have the opportunity to send out an email the very next day and say, hey, here's your meeting, watch it now, watch it here, click here to watch, do whatever, and having a higher quality and that expediency of having it the next day, I think is something that's really important, especially when, that's the way people are moving. People are moving and they want to see things right away. And for us to be able to do that, we can send out an email to, not granted we don't have every resident in the community, but it's growing, and that way of communicating to people. Even if we got to Twitter or something like that, and we were able to say, hey, check it out now. I think that if we jump on that bandwagon, I think that, as Mr. Maynard was saying, we have, more people have computers, and the technological communication, I think, is where people are going.
To me, from the get-go, this is all about the speed of how quickly can we have access to our meetings for those who are unable to sit here and come to the meeting. To me, that's the critical part. If someone doesn't even have a computer, it's not that much money to hand them a free DVD if they want to come here and pick it up. So it's all about access and about people being able to view our open meetings.
Okay.
Well, I think you have two decisions before you. Which vendor and for how long?
Yeah, but I don't know if you want to call.
Yes, sir. What did the board have in mind for a period of time? A year? Test period of a year? Test period of 6 months?
I don't mind a year contract, but I also want some stipulation that there's some performance clause. And if it's not working after 90 days, we're able to walk away.
You always have a mutual termination clause in
Okay.
these agreements.
Oh, so, okay, we will have that, yeah, excellent.
I'm not sure it's unreasonable, even if it's, funding part of the startup costs, which I don't think are that significant. Have them both do a meeting and compare it. Secondly, do we even know how many people would even watch it on LATV?
I don't know.
Whether it costs us, you have to have Time Warner to get that? 20% of the people, so you got 700 homes in here, and maybe 5% of those people watch it, so you got 35 people that are going to watch it on LATV, and it's going to cost us $1,000 to $15,000 a year? Doesn't seem reasonable.
Not sure if that's monitored or not.
And also, I would suggest if we do just go with the YouTube and not rely on negotiating and paying a fee to Time Warner to broadcast it on LATV, in the next Rossmoor Homeowners Association meeting when everybody, whether they read it or not, I don't know. Front page. From now on, the RCSD board meetings will be only broadcast on YouTube, and we will publish it on the RCSD Facebook page, whether it's 24 hours or 96 hours, doesn't matter. You want to go watch it, people will watch it. But I think to expend any of the community's funds to put it on an unknown, and like you said, it could be 2:30 in the morning. So you got 20% of the population potentially could see it, and then 5% would want to see it, and then another 1% would actually either TiVo it or stay up till 2:30 in the morning to watch it. We have no control over them. Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
On LATV, we were subject to their schedule, so the way it worked until probably tomorrow will be the last time. After sports, sometime tomorrow evening, this meeting will be aired on LATV3, perhaps for the last time. But the point is, they post a schedule. You've got to go find that schedule as a potential viewer and see when you can watch it and then be there to watch it. In this age of just-in-time information, kind of as Michael was saying, on YouTube or whatever internet cloud we choose, you post a URL, people click on it on demand, they can watch it when they want to, and it's just not complicated.
Greetings, I'm Milltown, and I want to give you one personal testimony. I did, in fact, tune in via YouTube link and sat here and watched your entire meeting on one of my travels. And I was sitting in a hotel in Helsinki, Finland, able to watch the proceedings here, keep myself current of what was going on. So feedback that we do get is that there is a significant percentage of our population that uses the DirecTV approach and therefore doesn't watch cable television. We're getting that as a regular feedback. And so I would say that having it available via the YouTube, I think one of the challenges that we have in our organizations is we know where we are today, but we don't really know where we're headed for tomorrow. And if I'm looking at trends correctly, the YouTube, the internet capability is going to be expanding. You hear commercials for AT&T talking about a wireless community where I don't think it's too far in the future where our residents actually could be walking down the street with their tablet, getting a wireless broadcast and actually able to sit in one of our parks and watch the proceedings of this over YouTube. So, that having the availability, I was going to give some credentials here since I have a master's degree in communications from Cal State Fullerton. My specialty was in print media, not broadcast media, so I'm not on the technical side of this, but the currency, your issue with the currency I think is important. News is only news while it's new, and the faster you can get it to the street, the more it is. That's where, your TVs today used to have all videotape came in, it was always later. Now it's live on the street anywhere in the world. And so I think the idea of the speed is beneficial in terms of making your determination. Thank you.
I appreciate the input from everybody. All right, so there's a motion?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we go with Mr. Wood, apostrophe S, Services. Like to, I guess, see a year contract with some sort of 90-day out clause based on expectations.
I would second that.
Any further discussion?
Nothing else.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed? All right, Mr. Wood, congratulations.
You're the man.
All right.
There's another, are we supposed to?
Oh, yeah, the other part.
Equipment.
Oh.
Is that up for discussion and vote as well?
Well, it certainly is up for discussion, but there's no urgency to deal with that. I would prefer you have a 5-member board to take that subject up.
Can I just
Point taken.
ask a question regarding that?
Surely.
If we do own the equipment, what meetings are we allowed to, like if the RHA board meeting, would we be able to use that equipment to tape those? Or is that not, what's the guidelines with that?
You'd have to establish your own policy, because you'd have to be very careful about how you treat a request to be filmed, because once you open the door, then how do you say no to the next and the third and the fourth request? So you establish a policy going in saying, this is how we operate, and these are the parameters under which we will broadcast or produce certain events within the community.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to table that to another future. Correct.
It'll probably have to be May or later, because you don't have a full board next meeting either.
Okay. All right, can we move on then to D3?
Sure.
Where are we on?
D3,
H3?
or H3, excuse me, H3.
Mr. President, members of the board, in accordance with your policy, I've prepared for you a budget calendar for your FY 2012-2013 budget cycle, and request that you review and adopt that calendar so that you and the public know precisely what milestones we have with getting to a final budget.
So you want a motion adopting this?
Adopt and approve, yes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the calendar proposed?
Now, the dates are flexible to some degree, I think you said, so
They
that's
have to be,
fine.
they have to be, sir, for your committee meetings, again, based on availability of board members for both the budget and the CIP committee to meet at the time that's within a time frame between meetings.
Excellent.
All right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? People who oppose it? None? Okay, that passes. Then we'll go to the RHA request, H4.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have a request before you from the Rossmoor Homeowners Association for a co-sponsorship of the Rossmoor Community Festival, which is scheduled for Sunday, May the 6th at Rush Park. The request is similar in scope to the support and co-sponsorship activities that have been performed by the district with the RHA for many years now. And we recommend you approve their request for the co-sponsorship.
Okay, anyone want to make the motion?
I move that the RCSD co-sponsors the festival.
Second.
Discussion?
It appears that it's going to be pretty much the same as last year, with a different focus on not having a specific format for it. Like, I guess last year was,
Western theme.
Cowboy hats.
I guess it was the year before, it was like a Shakespearean sort of setup. I'm confusing that with Shakespeare in the Park in July, I guess. So, yeah, it was the cowboy.
Mr. Milt Houghton is here if you want to ask him specific questions about the format.
I don't know that I have a specific question, other than they're going to provide a good time, and the RCSD is going to provide similar services in terms of manpower and the like, as in maybe the equipment, as we did last year.
Same.
I assume the answer is yes to that question.
Correct, sir.
Actually, Milt, why don't you come on up? This is the last time we're on LoSal TV, so this is your chance to get everyone excited about
Well,
your
we're
So
assuming,
sell it.
we're assuming we're on LATV. We'll find out tomorrow when we
Say we have
deliver
one
the
more.
disc.
We'll find out when.
Don't cut us off.
Answer to specific questions. We did try a couple of themes. They kind of went over, some better, some not. This year, they decided that the theme kind of detracted from somewhat of the intent of the community festival, which is really just to get together and have a good time. And so we haven't set a specific theme. One of the focuses from the RHA perspective, though, is that we will be promoting internally some of the community services that we offer. The Neighborhood Watch explaining to the residents more about what Neighborhood Watch is all about, and then our emergency preparedness efforts. And we should have, again, some of the same representatives that we had from the fire, from the sheriffs, et cetera, doing that. The features of the community festival will be almost identical. We'll have the car show, we'll have the dog parade, we'll have the bouncy things for the kids for their entertainment. Whoever the food vendors are pretty much the same. We're looking at input for new and interesting other vendors that might be interested in showing up. We've got solicitation going out. So far, I mean, the committee has been a joint committee. Emily's been participating with us, and then Liz, the flyer that you did there, Liz was behind the production of that. So, we appreciate the services. Actually, I was going to make some kind of a jest here. Last year when we proposed this thing, we kind of said in the co-sponsorship process, we were going to alternate between 1 year you'd take the lead and 1 year we would take the lead. And this year it was your turn to take the lead, so I thought it might have been more appropriate for you to come ask us if we'd like to join you in sponsoring the parade rather than us coming to you. But it doesn't make any difference. We know we're all in this together, and so we're going to go forward.
Good luck
and
with
we'll
that.
have a good time in the community.
Will there be a dunk booth for Alfred to sit upon and people can throw balls?
We haven't thought about some of things like that, but I'm sure it's not too late to try to find a vendor for something.
I think we should do the vice president this year.
Okay, whatever. If we thought that would make money, that would work. Again, some of the proceeds, I think we finally got the festival to where it is at least at a break even if it's not costing us a lot of money out of our meager budget that we have. And so we've been able to turn some of those things around. I don't know if people have really paid attention, but this year in our high school scholarship program, we've officially opened it up to 3 recipients, and we've increased the first prize from $1,000 to $2,500. So we're hoping that in the month of June we'll get on the calendar here and let you hear from the winner of our scholarship contest of what their recommendation, this is the graduating high school seniors, what their recommendations are for making Rossmoor a better place yet to live. Any other questions? Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Okay, no one opposed, motion carries. Mr. Taboada, it's time for general manager items.
Mr. President, members of the board, let me ask Director Maynard if he's going to report on the SAR. If you will, yeah, I won't if you are.
I will.
Okay, thank you. As I've been informing you over these many months that the immediacy of the West Coast Connector project is upon us, and that is that in next 2 or 3 months, that project will actually move into the second phase, which is the Seal Beach Overpass. And I regularly attend meetings with OCTA and Caltrans to get the latest updates on that. OCTA has asked if perhaps next month, if not the month after that, make a presentation to the board with regard to potential impacts and mitigation and other things consistent with that. So I will keep you informed of that progress, and hopefully we'll be able to weather all of this as it presents itself. That's all I have, sir.
Any board member items?
I have nothing for this evening.
Per Henry, our SAR committee will be meeting pretty soon again, but what's more critical is tomorrow, the Seal Beach Planning Commission will be discussing their housing elements and voting to bring it to the council. As you might recall, the shops at Rossmoor was identified for 1 full acre of low-income housing. The past owner and the current owner have no interests. They do not want it to be rezoned, and they've even told the city that. So the city did tell their commission to please go out there and find alternative sites. They did find alternative sites. However, they have taken that 1 acre behind the shops and now have indicated as 2 acres. So that's kind of an interesting play. The other thing is if you actually look at their document that is on the Seal Beach website, City Council website, I should say, all of their frequently asked questions, a lot of their tables in the back is pretty much indicating that they're still leading to take the shops at Rossmoor and make that the designation for low-income housing for their housing element plan that they are 8 years late or something of that of putting forward. So I would encourage anybody and everybody to attend tomorrow's meeting and make your voice loud and clear that there are plenty of acreage spots. They just so choose not to use them.
And again, the date and time?
The date is tomorrow. I believe the time is, Henry,
I think it's 7:30. I check their website pretty regularly.
it's 7 or 7:30. I don't have that memorized, but again,
Location?
the statement that I'm going to make is just very simple, is it just seems like folly to me and disingenuous that you would identify a spot that the current owner has no willingness to develop into a housing plan, who has been vocal about it. You now have Rossmoor, who shares the street, who's been very vocal. You have people in District 2 and 5 of your own Seal Beach community who are very vocal. You are swimming upstream. I don't understand why you're doing that. That's at least my argument. Please come with your own. But I believe literally the more people who come during the public comment and take their full 5 minutes and be articulate, professional, would actually help our community out greatly. So I would encourage people to do so.
And this is the Seal Beach City Council room?
It's in their city chambers, yes.
I have a couple of things. The first is it's a question in terms of how things are going at the Rossmoor tennis courts. The four of them hopefully are now all open and functioning well in terms of the people playing there being satisfied with the conditions.
Director Casey, they're all four open, but there still is work to be done on one of the four courts on a resurfacing, and we're just waiting for a weather window that doesn't interfere with that process. We had beautiful sunshiny days this week, and now we're looking at a 5-day rain forecast, so
Yeah, I
until we get
understand.
out of this rainy season, there's really no urgency to proceed with that until we're pretty much assured that we'll have more than enough time for it to cure and be up to speed. It's in warranty period, and the contractor knows that he has to do it. It's just scheduling.
So he's just waiting for like a good window, which who knows when that may
Well, we're
come.
both waiting. We're basically saying, let's wait until,
We're being patient together.
right.
Okay, very good. And the other item is, Michael has already touched on it in terms of the Planning Commission meeting, which I'll definitely be there tomorrow night. I hope to have done more good at not this most recent city council meeting, but I showed up at the previous one, which was like the 29th of February, whatever it was, and I showed up early with the intent before making some comments during open forum of like talking to some of the council members. However, they had a closed session, and I was only able to speak to one of the individuals before their city council reconvened after their closed meeting. And so I just said a few things in terms of the community's feelings, in terms of the housing issue first and foremost, but also the traffic both in and outside of the shops at Rossmoor. And hopefully Michael and I and other community members can show up tomorrow night and hopefully make some impact in terms of their thought process, in terms of where they go next. And that's all I have.
My request is that, Mr. Taboada, you bring to Mr. Reynolds' attention on 3132 Orangewood, one of our hallmark streets. There's been a vacant tree site there for at least 3 to 4 months since the removal of the tree.
What was that address, sir?
3132.
Orangewood?
Yes.
And there's a what? A
The
vacant?
tree was removed. It was one of the long-standing silver maples. One of the nicer trees on the street was removed, I'm sure due to disease or rot or a structure that lacked integrity and strength to cause it to remain. But it's visibly absent, and is a hallmark street, so is there a chance we could perhaps escalate the
I'll
time?
refer that to Randy first thing in the morning.
That'd be great. That's all I have, and there's no closed sessions tonight, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So motioned.
All in favor?
All?
Aye?
Aye.